Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rob Thacker. I'm the music director here. And we're going to begin by singing our song for Gathering 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Please rise, embody your spirit.
I invite you to join me in reciting our chalice lighting this morning. Love is the Spirit of this Church by Reverend James Vila Blake. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Claire Wagner. It is my pleasure to welcome you to St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church. I am a 36-year member, and I serve on the communications team as well as Found House. Reverend Jenn Gracen is our interim minister. Here, we hope to help you exercise your mind, fill your spirit, and lift your heart to the common blessings that surprise and renew our human being. St. John's is proud to be a welcoming congregation. We seek to be a spiritual home for all, and as such, we honor and value the racial, economic, cultural, age, physical ability, sexual orientation, and gender diversity of our members and visitors. A warm welcome to visitors this morning, in person or online. I invite those attending in person to stop by the welcome table in our lobby and to join us for refreshments and conversation in our fellowship hall after the service. There are many great things happening at St. John's. Please review your order of service, and you can check out the TV in the lobby or in Crow Pfeiffer Fellowship Hall, plus bulletin boards in the fellowship hall to learn more. For now, please put your cell phones in church mode. And again, welcome.
Please rise, embody your spirit, and we'll sing hymn 168, One More Step.
Sing one
Please join me in saying our affirmation. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
I want to invite my banner holder or holders forward. Bill's selecting people. So today we are blessing the Black Lives Matter banner that we are going to put up to replace the one that has been on our building for years now. As you might have noticed, it's gotten a bit faded, and it's been time to replace it. So this gives us an opportunity to rededicate our work and ourselves to this work as well. And I'm going to invite you to participate. We believe every person worthy of love, and too often in this country, our institutions fall short of embodying this. Too often, Black folks, Indigenous folks, and other people of color are told they do not matter. Years ago, St. John's proclaimed Black Lives Matter. Today, we rededicate ourselves to fighting racial discrimination in Cincinnati and the United States. So I invite you to join me in blessing our new banner. Anyone who feels comfortable, I invite you to come forward, and you can place a hand on the banner or on the shoulder of someone who's touching it. And if you want, you can stay in your seats and just hold your hand up or just sit quietly. We're very flexible in how we do this. Are we in position? We bless this banner and each other with courage. May we be brave enough to speak out and act in spite of our fears. We bless this banner and each other with persistence. May we find the endurance we need for the long-haul journey of racial justice. We bless this banner and each other with solidarity. May we be guided by our belief in the interconnectedness of our liberation. We bless this banner and each other with love. May we harness the power of revolutionary love to drive out injustice that surrounds us. Blessed be. Amen. Thank you.
We're now going to have a video play of Ella's song, but if I understand correctly, it's one that I believe provides a little bit of instruction for your participation as well. So don't be afraid, sing out, okay?
This next song that we're going to do with the choir is called Ella's Song. It's named for Ella Baker. Ella Baker was a staunch fighter, a staunch advocate for young people and their involvement in the civil rights movement, one who would sit for hours and listen as young people discussed and debated strategies for how they would move next in whatever direction they decided they wanted to go. These are Ella Baker's words. They were set to music by Bernice Johnson-Regan, Ella's Song.
Now these are some very strong words we're saying here, so it means we need everyone to sing with us. The chorus. I'm going to teach you the chorus. I want you to sing it back to me. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Now, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. That's good, but it's weak. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now. There's a lot of freedoms being threatened. Think about it. Here we go. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Good. Now Carol and I will sing the verses, and when it's your turn, come in nice and strong. Ready? Whenever you are. Until the killing of black men, black mothers, sons is as important as the killing of a white man, a white mother's son. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. No, no, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. You know, that which touches me most is that I had the chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. To me, young people come first. They have the courage of where we fell. And if I could but shed some light as they carry us through the gale, we who believe, come on, we cannot rest. Say it like you know it now. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Hey, struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand and fight and learning where struggles survive. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. At times I can be quite difficult. I'm bound to no man's word. Come on now, we who believe, yes, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. No, 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 we who believe in freedom, yes, freedom cannot rest. One more time now, we who believe, yes, we who believe in freedom cannot rest.
Every week we make time in our service to ground ourselves in what we value. We celebrate and honor our joys and concerns by coming forward to place stones representing all that we carry into the sand that reminds us of the many and unique parts of our beloved community. If you would like a joy or concern to be read, please leave them on the table, or if you are online, please enter them in chat. And we light the candle to represent all that has been shared and all that remains in our hearts today. We have a few spoken joys and concerns to share today. Sharon Loeb, L-O-E-B, Loeb, excellent, has been in Houston, Texas since July 8th, taking care of and trying to find care placement for her mother. And her father. And she's scheduled to return to Cincinnati on September 11th following her 2-month stay in Houston. A care facility has been found in Dallas, and her parents will have medical transportation to the care facility. For Karen Miller, whose disease continues to progress and who remains her smart, stylish, sassy self. From Wanda. And today, September 1st, Deb and Tony Potachnik celebrate 45 years of marriage plus 7 years of common law. Congratulations. Every week, Unitarian Universalist congregations across the country honor the joys and sorrows and concerns of the community and the world. When you come into this room, you are invited to be your entire self. We invite you not to leave your broken heart at the door, to bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards, and the world needs vision. Bring them with you. And your joy, the joys of marriage, the joys of return, the joys of met needs. Bring your passion, bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing. Bring your need for care and compassion. Bring your power to heal. Here is work to do, and you have all you need to do it right here in this room. I invite you into a few moments of silence. Amen. I want to invite the children and anyone who feels called to come forward for a story for all ages. If you've been with us before, you know you don't even have to come forward to be welcomed into the story. Our story today is inspired by the labor movement. It is called Bee Strike. So, this is not connected to anybody currently in office or running for office, I promise. One day there was a president, and this president was a little odd. He only liked to eat one thing. Have you ever wanted to just eat one thing and only one thing? Some yes, some no. Sometimes I think it would be simpler. Well, this president wanted to only eat peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches. Now, when he was young, his parents made him eat other things like broccoli and carrots and liver. No, I'm just kidding. That was a different story. But now that he was president, he could decide, and he decided he was only going to eat peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches, PBBH for short. And for a while this was okay, but eventually his chef got bored. Can you imagine making the same thing every day? Do you think you'd get a little bored? Especially if your job is to make food. So his chef got bored and quit. So the president had NASA make robots that would spend all day making peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches, PBBH. And soon it became a craze. Everybody started eating PBBH. Celebrities, Congress people, everybody was eating these. Congress even passed a law that the only food that would be served in their cafeteria would be, you're getting the theme. And, you know, the peanut farmers didn't mind this at all. Pretty soon they were buying big fancy houses and driving really nice cars. But the bees complained. They were having to work a lot to make so much honey. The president told them to just get back to work. And so the bees had to close down their schools, and they had to eliminate weekends and vacations. That doesn't sound very fun, does it? No. Does it sound fun to you? No. Just trying to meet the demand, but they still struggled to keep up. They exile people who are sick or old so they can make more room for honey storage. Until one day, Caesar bee said, enough is enough. And he called all the bees together and said, listen, enough is enough. We have to go on strike. And the bees buzzed a little bit because they didn't know what a strike was. Does anybody know what a strike is? Go ahead. It's when you stop working because you need to get better pay. That's an excellent description of a strike. So once he explained what it was, the bees buzzed happily. You want to be happy bees? There we go. That's exactly what it sounded like. And all the bees decided to go on strike. Pretty soon, the president got a postcard. And on one side of the postcard was the bees' demands for health care and vacations and education. And the other side was a picture of a PBBH sandwich with a great big red X over it. Well, the president wasn't about to be pushed around by bees, so he resisted for a while. And he could do that because he had a lot of money, and so he had a great big pot of honey in the White House. Everybody else was running out of honey, and then eventually he did too. And he still resisted until one day he had a really rough day. The other world leaders laughed at his suit, and they didn't listen to him. And so he came back wanting a PBBH sandwich, which always made him feel better before. But there was no honey. So he called his people, and he said, get Caesar bee over here. Sorry. Just imagining that. And that's where we get that iconic picture of the president shaking 4 legs with Caesar bee. And it's why the bees only work during certain seasons. The end. We're going to sing the children out. I don't think we have classes today. We are going to have classes. Excellent. I invite you to join me in singing the children out. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place, to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our walls as tools to empower our mission. St. John's is committed to creating a safe and caring community, working for peace and social justice, and celebrating beliefs that respect freedom of thought. An offering will be gratefully received.
Our reading today is Fast Food Workers in New York. Jens Rushing wrote it in 2015, and I believe it is still relevant. Fast food workers in New York just want a $15 an hour wage. I'm a paramedic. My job requires a broad set of skills, interpersonal, medical, technical skills, as well as the crucial skill of performing under pressure. I often make decisions on my own, in seconds, under chaotic circumstances that impact people's lives and health. I make $15 an hour. And these burger flippers think they deserve as much as me? Good for them. Look, he says, if any job is going to take up someone's life, it deserves a living wage. If a job exists and you have to hire someone to do it, they deserve a living wage. End of story. There's a lot of talk going around my workplace, and he tells the story about what people say about the burger flippers. This is exactly what the bosses want. He asks, why are you angry about fast food workers making a little more an hour when the CEO makes 400 times what you do? It is in the interest of those who make the most money to direct that anger downward. He concludes his message by saying, my company, as they're so fond of telling us in boosterist emails, cleared $1.3 billion last year. They expect guys supporting families on $26,000 or $27,000 a year to applaud that. And that's to say nothing of the techs and janitors and cashiers and bed pushers who make even less than us, but are as absolutely crucial to making a hospital work as the CEO or neurosurgeons. Can they pay us more? Absolutely. But why would they? No one's making them. The workers in New York made them. They fought for and won a living wage. So how incredibly petty and counterproductive is it for us to pile their crumbs, to fuss that their pile of crumbs is bigger than ours? Put that energy elsewhere. Organize, fight, win.
Before unions were organized in the 1800s, employees could be required to work all kinds of hours and in unsafe conditions. That's what we were getting at with that silly little story about the bee strike. It was the labor movement that gave us the 40-hour work week, weekends, and child labor laws. It was a united front that got workers minimum wage and protection that kept people from being fired simply for getting sick or injured. It was a united front, a movement that brought lunch hours and breaks. The first Labor Day was celebrated on September 5th, 1882 in New York City. It was a massive parade organized by the Central Labor Union. The holiday became federally recognized in 1894. And yet we continue to struggle with the fair treatment of workers. The pandemic brought this to light for us again. During the pandemic, when thousands of people were laid off from their positions due to lockdowns and others were unable to work due to the pandemic itself, the federal government passed the CARES Act. One aspect of that act was the federal pandemic unemployment compensation, which added money to a person's unemployment check to help them cover some of those lost wages. The idea was that this would help people stay in their homes, continuing to feed themselves and their children, the entire point of the social safety net in our country. And as the country started to open back up, many people were surprised by the record rate of employees quitting their jobs, particularly in the restaurant industry. In April of 2021, there were 1.34 million job openings in the restaurant industry. You may have seen pictures from around that time of fast food restaurants where employees had all quit together and put up signs saying the store was closed because everyone had quit. Other pictures showed signs put up by employers lamenting that the store was closed because no one wanted to work anymore. The narrative that started to float around about this was that the extra money in the unemployment checks was making people lazy. They didn't want to work anymore because of the money, and that's why people weren't coming back. It's an easy direction to go, and as Jens Rushing pointed out in our reading, it's often the direction we are encouraged to go. But as UUs, we know to question the dominant narratives, and we often find insight by starting from the perspective of the marginalized. So let's dig a little deeper into this on this Labor Day weekend. The minimum wage was established in 1938 through the Fair Labor Standards Act with the idea that it would be a living wage. And while it has been raised and expanded several times in the intervening years, it was not set to raise as the cost of living went up. Each raise has required an act of Congress. And at this point, the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is nowhere near sufficient to keep a family out of poverty. So what might that look like on the ground? As people have pushed for a $15 minimum wage for, as Jens Rushing said, burger flippers, pundits have responded saying these jobs are for teenagers and were never meant to support a family. Right? It's easy to see that's just not true. When I worked my first job, which was at McDonald's, I was what many people consider the typical McDonald's employee. I was a teenager working an entry-level job that I wouldn't keep. But I wasn't the only person there. One woman had been working at that McDonald's for 25 years. She had 3 kids. Another was newer like me and young, but trying to support 2 children with very little family support. In 2013, McDonald's came under fire when their McResource website, which you can no longer find, put up assorted advice for low-wage workers. The website included things like, quit complaining about your job. It said stress hormone levels rise after 15% after 10 minutes of complaining, so we're doing it for you. Others suggested ways to help with stress, sing songs, chew gum, go to church. I mean, I find it hard to argue with that one, but advice to help make ends meet included suggesting that employees seek out food pantries and break their food into smaller bites so they could feel full quicker. I am not kidding. This was legitimately up there. The McResource line offered advice on how to apply for food stamps and Medicare. Criticism elevated in response to the sample budget that McDonald's provided. It assumed an employee would have 2 jobs. It allowed $20 a month for health care. This was particularly interesting because in 2010, the McDonald's health plan for one worker was $14 a week. The budget included nothing for gas, for childcare, for clothing, or food, and $50 for heating. The website suggested ways to make quick cash included selling your things on eBay and returning Christmas presents. Those suggestions were not geared toward teenagers. The same year in Canton, Ohio, a Walmart held a food drive for its own employees. Criticism was sharp in response to this. The company has experienced pushback for the fact that its own employees often need to go on public support in order to make ends meet. A second Ohio Walmart held a food drive for its employees a few days later. The criticism of these food drives echoed a distinction raised by ancient Jewish prophet Micah, reiterated by Jesus of Nazareth, and repeated again in modern times by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. These faith leaders spoke of justice and charity as distinct. A food drive is charitable to help those suffering. People of faith often support such charity, especially around the holidays, and for good reasons. But justice requires that we also look at why people are suffering. What structures are keeping some of us in a position to offer help when we feel like it, and others in a position of needing help? It's the height of hypocrisy for employers to sponsor feel-good charitable events like food drives while profiting from their workers' poverty. And it isn't easy for people who are living comfortably to understand the difficult choices faced by those experiencing poverty. When folks are hit with natural disasters like hurricanes or floods, we often hear criticism towards them for not leaving before the hurricane or the flood hits the area. Yet an employee on minimum wage might not have a car or access to gas. Even if they did have those resources, they might not have friends to stay with out of town. Still, others have to wonder whether they will be able to keep their jobs if they leave the area during a disaster. Faced with those choices, what would you do? Here's another example. A woman working full-time at minimum wage with a child or two who lives in the middle of Texas finds herself unexpectedly pregnant. If she doesn't have access to transportation or affordable childcare or time off work or health insurance, what choices does she have for continuing the pregnancy or ending it? Even before Texas passed its incredibly restrictive laws, reproductive freedom has been extremely limited for low-wage workers. These are the reasons for movements like the Fight for 15, which is seeing success in areas across the country, including New York and more recently Chicago. And the movement is still needed. Here in Ohio, minimum wage is $10.45 an hour. In Kentucky, it is $7.25. And yet the average living wage for both states is $19.40 an hour for a single adult with no children. When the pandemic hit and some employees got a chance to step back and breathe for a moment, some of them took the opportunity to find higher paying jobs or different jobs in other industries. Some decided to retire or go back to school. Employees talked about the pandemic giving them an opportunity to see what their lives were worth, what their time was worth. Remember that during the height of the pandemic, workers in food-related jobs faced the greatest risk of death, with an increase of 40%, according to research by the University of California. As Rushing said in his statement, if any job is going to take up someone's life, it deserves a living wage. If a job exists and you have to hire someone to do it, they deserve a living wage. Deservance is a tricky concept for us in this country. We want the world around us to be fair. And from the time we were very young, we tended to use our own limited experiences to judge what others deserved. We see this inclination as the country talks about the possibility of releasing a generation from the debt of student loans. Some people say, I paid my way through college, not realizing that college structures, funding structures have changed and place much heavier financial burdens on students today. Others say, I paid my loans back, they should too, without considering the social cost of continuing a harmful system just because they survived that harm in the past. The question of fairness, of justice, is such a struggle for us as human beings. And we've been dealing with that struggle for thousands of years. During the ministry of Jesus of Nazareth, he told a parable about workers in the vineyard. In the early morning, the landowner goes out to hire workers for the vineyard. He agrees to pay them a silver coin for the day's work. A few hours later, at 9 in the morning, he goes out again, sees more people standing in the marketplace. He tells them they can also go to work in the vineyard, and he will pay them whatever is right. So they did. This happens again at noon. At 5, near the end of the day, he goes out again and finds others in the marketplace. He asks them why they're there. They said it's because no one hired them. He tells them to go work in the vineyard, and he will pay them what is fair. When the evening arrived, the landowner told the foreman to call the workers in and pay them their wages, starting with the last ones hired and going to the first. At the end of that day, each person received 1 silver coin, but the people who had been there longer complained that they were paid the same as everyone else. They complained that those who were hired last were equal to those hired first and bore the burden of work that day. The landowner reminded them that those of the start of the day had agreed to work for a silver coin. He questioned why they would be upset with him paying the others a decent amount as well. In the end, everybody would leave with the money they needed to live on. Maggie Max, a Quaker writer, reminds us that in the Torah, the Jewish holy text, it calls for workers to be treated with dignity and respect. This means employees are paid a living wage and not knowingly put at risk of injury or death. Employers are expected to treat their employees with dignity and respect, and employees are expected to treat their employers with dignity and respect and to do their best work. This is born from an idea that the work the employers and the employees are doing is sacred and in partnership with God in the work of creation. The Torah says workers need a day's wage to meet the needs of their families. If a worker isn't paid a day's wage, that leaves the family in poverty. The world is not better or a more just place when such families are left to suffer in the name of fairness to those who worked longer. Now, that might feel a little challenging, and that's okay. It's countercultural to capitalism and to our country. But the stories told by Jesus weren't meant to be easy, even back when he was speaking to people who understood the Jewish culture and context. So they certainly aren't likely to fit well with modern American sensibilities. We live in a country that claims to be built on the idea of liberty and justice for all, but we've perverted the idea of justice when we deny generosity, when we deny people the ability to meet the needs of their families. We perverted the sacred concept of justice, making it a market transaction. When envy and fear lead us to ignore the needs of others because we've been working all day, or because we've already paid our loans, or because our job requires more education, we're not serving love in this world. When we tell ourselves we are more deserving of comforts and others are more deserving to suffer, for whatever reason we find to justify such separation, how are we living out our faith tradition's commitment to inherent worth and dignity, to center love? When we turn our anger and frustration about the struggles we face onto those who have less than us, rather than journeying together to challenge the systems that have made it impossible for people to thrive, then we've failed. My beloved spiritual companions, we are a people called to understand the connections we share with every other human being. We are called to work toward a world of true justice, a justice that supports everyone living a full life. On this Labor Day weekend, may we remember the needs of those around us. May we remember the story is never as simple as the sound bite. And may we support those fighting for justice. May we work for a living wage for all. Blessed be. Amen.
We're going to switch things around a little bit and still sing 157. Please rise and body your spirit, and we'll sing hymn 157, Step by Step, the Longest March.
Next Sunday is Water Communion Sunday. Please remember to bring some water and consider a lesson or gift you found this summer. Next Sunday also is the next men's group potluck on foreign languages. More details are in your order of service. And on Thursday, the choir invites you to pizza and singing. Test the waters. It also has details in the order of service. And Joetta Pro, our board president, has an announcement.
Thanks, Claire. Good morning. I'm Joetta Pro, as Claire said, president of the board. But in line with the theme today, I have to also say I'm a retired psychologist. That's what I spent my work career doing, and psychologists love to do surveys and research, right? So I'm going to do a little informal one. Get ready here. So how many here today, how many of you have ever applied for a job when you weren't sure it would be a good fit? Many. I'll just say many. Okay, how many of you have accepted a job, then realized you might be happier in a different job? Quite a few still, right? All right, so how many of you have served as a supervisor or a hiring manager or supervisor? All right, so all of y'all, the supervisors, including myself there, have done that. How many of you have hired someone who you thought would be a perfect fit for the job, but they weren't? Is there any managers or supervisors who haven't had that experience? No, not me. I have had that experience. Okay, how about, have you ever had a great employee leave for a good reason? Yeah, my favorite example of that is an employee who was awesome. Her name was Lataris, and when she came to tell me she was leaving the work that we were doing together, I was crushed, and I felt bad for feeling that way because she was leaving to join the Peace Corps. So, you know, my loss was the Peace Corps' gain. So, well, all of that is my prelude to say that I do have some disappointing news to share with you today. The new Children's Director of Religious Education that we so happily announced last week has decided to decline the position. We're not exactly sure why, but we wish her well. It's my view, and several others, I think it's kind of good that, you know, we didn't get all attached to her, right? And then for her to leave, so that's a good thing. But we are, without being any kind of sugarcoating or lightheartedness, we're very disappointed, of course, and frustrating because we were looking forward to beginning to plan what I would call the renaissance of our children's RA program. So Rev Jenn and the board will be having more conversation. We have some ideas and creative ideas they are. So please stand by. We'll keep you apprised. Thank you, as always, for your grace and blessing to us. Thanks.
Now we'll sing again, 318. Please rise and bow to your spirits. We sing our closing hymn, We Would Be One.
That I
May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction until we are all changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming our better selves. Go in peace, go in love. Amen.